And lastly, let's face it, we have a challenge here in Europe because this is what some people think. We have a communications challenge, an image challenge. We would say in American English, we need to brand ourselves properly. So that, I think, is a basket of challenges that face the alliance and that we should consider as we go forward and think about this alliance beyond Afghanistan. Next, please. So let me quickly talk about some ideas and where I think we should put some emphasis as we look at these challenges. And I always begin by saying we are an alliance that is very good at launching missiles. We're very good at that. We need to do a lot better at launching ideas, So let me talk about that in the context of these challenges. Next, please. And this slide may surprise you, but we are here today in the Foch auditorium. Some would say actually Maréchal Foch was the first Saceur. He commanded multinational troops in Europe in great combat. So I'm honored to be in this auditorium. And I know that Marshal Foch, I know that this institution would say that to launch ideas, you must begin by learning, by reading. And thus I'm an enormous proponent of all of us in this alliance and all of us who are in this conversation of reading and learning. And these are simply some books that are on the reading list that I recommend to the officers coming into my command within NATO. To read the fiction, to understand France, to read L'Étranger, to read Raymond Aron on the nonfiction side, to read Kafka and Don Quixote and all of this history and culture and language and literature is so important as we seek to launch ideas. And it needs to be an active, thoughtful component for our alliance. Next, please. And we need to do this. We need to do strategic communications. This is Minister Wardak, the Minister of Defense of Afghanistan, who is an excellent strategic communicator. He is an Afghan face discussing Afghan challenges. He communicates well in his own country, and he comes to the capitals of Europe and communicates very well the Afghan positions. We should learn from that. We need to be better strategic communicators, all of us. And it is not a gift that you are born with. It's something you learn and you work at to communicate ideas. Next, please. And we ought to think about social networks and the internet as we do that. What is the third largest country on earth after China and India? It's Facebook. 430 million people are on Facebook. My belief is that as we seek to explain our alliance and what we are doing in the world, we need to tap into this form of communication as well. Next, please. Now, Admiral Guillot spoke brilliantly about the comprehensive approach, about bringing the civil and the military together. I believe that is the heart of security in the 21st century. It is what NATO must become superb at accomplishing, at being part of. And so you see here the United Nations, the European Union, the World Bank, organizations like Médecins Sans Frontières, UNESCO, aid organizations, private sector. We have gotten in the military and in NATO, we are fairly good at joint operations. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, we're fairly good at that. We need to be much better at interagency operations, which is, of course, a focus in these institutes here. And I believe we must as well learn to work together with the private sector, with these organizations. So it is joint, international, but also interagency and private-public. That is the engine that will permit security in this 21st century. Next, please. And this is simply another representation of it, including the the logos of your organizations here. You will see them. Look at that photograph in the center. It is subtle. It's a photograph of a civilian telling the military pilot where to go, where to fly. We will see that type of scene as security unfolds in this 21st century. We the military, we this alliance must be part of a team to deliver security. Next, please. And here's another example of it. Next, please. So, Russia. How does the alliance move beyond Afghanistan? What is our role with Russia? I think this photograph sums it up. If you look at the expressions on the face of the two, you see the Secretary General so happy to be there in Moscow, just beaming and smiling. His hand is out in friendship. President Medvedev is looking carefully at this offer. And that's okay. If we think about how NATO looks to Russia, this is a very understandable picture. Our job on this side, I believe as an alliance, is to keep our hand out in friendship, to find zones of cooperation, to disagree where we must, but to cooperate wherever we can. And this is how we should approach Russia in this time ahead. Next, please. I think Turkey will be an incredibly important country as this century unfolds. We are lucky to have Turkey in this alliance. In a slightly different world as history unfolded, they might not have been, and we would be in a much more difficult state. By the middle of this century, Turkey's population will be larger than Russia's. By the middle of this century, Turkey will be the most populous European nation. I think we should all focus on keeping Turkey oriented toward the West, engaged with NATO, involved with us in our missions. I think that is an incredibly important aspect of the success of the alliance as we look forward to this future together. Next, please. Operations like Counterpiracy are part of our future, and not just for the tactical success of defeating pirates. I mean, every admiral loves to take on some pirates. That's what we like to do. But it is clear to me that this type of operation, which brings together NATO, the European Union, Russia, China, the Gulf states, individual countries, international organizations. I would say the European Union is the leading organization engaged in this. Learning how to bring these security coalitions together is incredibly important, and I believe part of our future, and you will see the Islamic countries represented here. These partnerships across those kinds of cultural lines will be incredibly valuable. Next, please. We need to continue to train and build capacity in partners. This is the NATO training mission in Iraq, where over 15,000 Iraqis have been trained by our alliance. I think that kind of work is very valuable because in the end, we cannot export security all over the world. We must train our partners and engage and enable them to deliver their own security. Next, please.